The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Yeah, hello everyone. Hi. Uh, you guys have any questions before we get started? Yeah, hi. Okay, are you comfortable with Spring MVC which we did last day? Okay. So I did Spring MVC yesterday. Okay, and let me do a very small example on Spring MVC. Again, right? I'll quickly finish it off this. So we just create a normal dynamic web project. Then let me show you the application flow also. And this is what exactly we have is whenever we do frameworks, I just create a web.xml first. Right? Then what I'll do here is in this web.xml I will configure a servlet which is not user defined. Alright, what I do in web.xml, I will configure a servlet which is not user defined. It's a built-in servlet. Here I will be configuring a servlet which is not user defined, which is a built-in servlet. I'll be configuring it here. So first thing what I'm supposed to do is I need to configure dispatch a servlet. So I need all the stuff, doc type and all other things. So what I do is from the previous example, I won't be getting everything, but yeah. So you are familiar with this stuff actually. This is the doc type of or whatever, okay, the web app. Then within this we can put welcome file list. Within this we can have a welcome file. Let my welcome file be anything. I didn't develop it yet. I'll do it later. Then I want to configure a servlet, but this servlet is not user defined. This servlet is a built-in. I would like to configure a built-in servlet. Then the built-in servlet is from whom? It is from the Spring framework. The built-in servlet is from the Spring framework. And we all know that any request, okay, will be routed through what? Web.xml. So whatever the web request comes, if you are requesting a web page, that should go to the web.xml. But in this web.xml, instead of specifying the URL, I am specifying a pattern. The URL, I am specifying a pattern. Asterisk. Asterisk means any kind of URL. Asterisk, any URL. So here, this servlet is handling all the requests. This servlet is handling all the requests. So the servlet is not for one particular request. Any request in this web application is taken care by this servlet only. Star.do. But the next thing is, how come a built-in servlet? The next thing is, how come a built-in servlet will understand the user requirement? How come a built-in servlet will understand the user requirement? How come a built-in servlet will understand the user requirement is the next concept. How come a servlet which is built-in understand the user requirement? So the user requirement is specified into a XML document. The user requirement is specified into an XML document, and I would like to name that XML document as what? I would like to name the XML document as dispatcher-servlet.xml. Why dispatcher-servlet.xml? Because in the web.xml I configured a servlet whose servlet name is dispatcher. So there should be an XML file existing with the servlet name dispatcher-servlet.xml. So whatever the servlet which is built in will rely on this XML document for information. So let me grab the doc type from there, from the previous example again. So this is your doc type. I mean, this is what the definition where it search for, beans. Right. Now what? So whatever you want to do, that should be specified within this. So what I want to do? I want to develop a JSP file which will be calling I want to develop a JSP file. Right click, new JSP. Let's call it as a redirect.jsp, whatever. Then in this, I would like to call anything you can do. Some module name slash say hello.do. So that goes to the web.xml. anything dot do will be attended by dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet is a built-in which rely on sys XML dispatcher -servlet dot XML. So bean name equals to, just put asterisk so that a single controller will be responsible for plenty of things. So I didn't develop the controller yet. Now here in the source programs, I'll be creating package column as controller package. Create a class. Now there should be a parent. Oh, you are not seeing the help. Why are you not seeing the help? Because you need to add libraries. We didn't do that. So there are some jar files I fetch. Copy. You have a lib folder. Paste into it. That's it. Now you go back and create your controller. Right click, new, class, user controller, browse, multi-action controller. So what? Whenever a request comes to you, it goes to the web.xml, and with web.xml a dispatcher servlet which is not user built, which is a built-in is configured. A built-in is configured. Now this built-in dispatcher servlet will rely on the XML. Now in this XML we are configuring that whenever a request comes, which program it should call. But fine, in this program what should happen? So what is the URL? Say hello, right? Now with this URL, I'll be defining a method here. And the arguments for this method is completely your choice. Servlet request, servlet response, return, model and view. Now this is the page Dahlia's name, the value. Now I tell you what is this statement equivalent to. The statement is equivalent to, if you do it with a normal servlet. If you do it with a normal servlet, that statement is equivalent to this. This is what it equivalent to. Now, model and view. It is only returning a string, right? To that string you need to add JSP. So that will also happen here only. Being ID equal to view resolver. Then there is some class name which I don't remember. So I grab it from the last example. Done. So you add the prefix and you add the suffix. So in the web INF, I want to create a folder. Let's name it as a JSP. Now in this folder, I want to create a JSP as success.jsp. Now in this, I just want to print hello dollar the request attribute. That's it. The job is done. Close it. Run on server. Do not find a class com dot company name dot, yeah, the package name I didn't specify correctly. It's com dot company name dot. As I told you earlier, right, the time why it is taking a lot of time is it is actually initiating the Spring framework. That is the reason I told you, when your application size is small, so better not to prefer frameworks. If your application size is large, then prefer frameworks. So we got it. We are done with this stuff. Hello, Arun. Yeah. Any question? Okay. No, it is not that XML name must be always dispatcher-servlet.xml. In the web.xml, what is the servlet name you opted for? The servlet name you opted for dispatcher, so it should be dispatcher-servlet. In case if you give it as a bean, it should be bean-servlet. So whatever the servlet name you opt for, servlet name hyphen servlet dot XML. That should be the XML name. Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. How is the control going from the web.xml to the dispatcher servlet.xml?
In the web.c, what happens when you, what this is the URL pattern, right? So where the URL pattern will be searched for? URL pattern will always be searched in web.xml, right?
Right.
So in the web.xml, the URL pattern, for this corresponding URL pattern, what is the servlet configured?
Dispatcher servlet.
Now dispatcher servlet, what exactly happens is, who will take care? Web container, right? The web container will see the URL pattern and invokes the corresponding servlet. But
Right.
this corresponding servlet is a user built or a built-in?
Built-in.
So built-in servlet, how it will understand the user requirement? We should give him the user requirement, right?
Right.
That user requirements are specified in the servlet dispatcher-servlet.xml. Now the thing is, how your dispatcher servlet is able to depend on dispatcher-servlet.xml. That is what I am trying to say here. Dispatcher
Yes.
servlet is a built-in servlet. So when it is a built-in servlet, they configured in such a way that, I mean, the logic inside the servlet is written in such a way that this servlet name will be used. Servlet, so what is the XML file name? Servlet name hyphen servlet.xml, right? So this dispatcher servlet program will read this XML document, and in the XML document you have all the bean tags, right?
Right.
So that URL tag here, see what is the URL? User slash say hello dot do. So the URL is matched. So which program is called? User controller program is called. But in the user controller, what method will be called? In the user controller, there is a method called say hello, which is the same as the URL. So this URL matches with the method name. Then that method gets invoked. But your question was, how come your dispatcher servlet is able to interpret the request? Your dispatcher servlet will read the XML document dispatcher-servlet.xml. Whatever the information you put it in the form of XML, that information will be read by your dispatcher servlet, which is a built-in. And in that you have a name attribute for a bean tag. So whenever this URL matches, it calls the respective controller. And that respective controller will go, and in that respective controller the corresponding method gets executed. And that corresponding method returns a model and view. The first argument is the view. Second argument is the attribute name. Third argument is the value in the attribute. Third argument, value in the attribute. Second argument, attribute name. First argument, the view name. But here you are not specifying success.sp, you are only specifying a string. Again you will come back to the dispatcher servlet. And in the dispatcher servlet there is something called view resolver. With the help of the view resolver, to that string success you add the suffix and you also add the prefix. With this you know that there is a file called success.jsp in the JSP folder of the web.inf, and you call that file and to print the data.
Oh. Okay.
Is this clear? The flow is clear?
Yes.
Alright. Suman, is it clear for you? Go ahead.
Can you show me dispatcher? Can you show me dispatcher servlet one more time?
Dispatcher XML file?
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Now, to this example, I would like to do a login example also here. So let's do that. Now, I want to do login.do. So it goes to what? Web.xml, then dispatcher servlet, then /star user controller. So in this itself, I would like to define a login method. A login, or you call it as whatever, register method also. Right? Now, if I want to register, what do you mean by registration? Registration is something you accept the data from the client, or you accept the data from the browser, and you insert these details into the database, or whatever. The client sends the data, server reads the data. So here, as you know, we learned in servlets. So you put all the input fields. We learned in servlets. We put all the input fields and we read them. We put all the input fields and we read it on a server call using request.getParameter, request.getParameter, request.getParameter. If you have 2 fields, you can do request.getParameter. Even if you have 20 fields, you can do request.getParameter. But if the number of fields increases, like if the number of fields goes to 30, 40, 50 or 100, then it will be difficult for you to read that request.getParameter. So what we do is, first let's create a data object or model object. From.company name dot project name dot DBO. Let's create a class user. Let's create a class user. Then add some fields. Provide string first name, last name, gender. I think just keep it very simple. First name, last name, password, and sufficient. Source, getters and setters. Perfect. Now what we need to do is, first you should display the registration page. I just say register page.do. Now in this, what I want to do, return new model and view. So there should be a registration page or something. Yeah, register page. Let's say register page.jsp. Now observe carefully here. What I am doing is, I am sending an empty object, and I am sending an empty object here. What is the significance of this empty object? You could understand. Now in the JSPs which I am going to create now, right click, new JSP file, register page.jsp. See, I'm creating a JSP, and in this JSP, I'm going to use some tag library. Look, this is what. I'm taking the form tags from Spring Framework. Now using this form tag, you will have an action attribute. You also have a command name attribute. Your command name is nothing but you are passing something, right? This one. So you are binding an empty object with the form. You are binding an empty object with the form. What is the significance of this? You are binding an empty object with the form, but what is the significance of this? The significance you're going to understand soon. If you see, I'm using exactly the same names here. First name, last name and password. Form colon input, first name. Then form colon input, last name. Then form colon input. We have something called form colon password. Path equal to password. Then I would like to have a submit button. So there is no form colon submit, so we can have a simple submit. Input type equal to submit. Value equal to register. Done. Now what exactly happens is register.html, right? Now here we can add one more method. Public return type model and view register observe carefully here. HTTP servlet request, HTTP servlet response, user, that's it. Okay, you can say return new model and view. You can simply say success. We are not sending any data this time. Now here the thing is, look, I am not doing any request.get parameter. I'm not doing any request.get parameter, but I try to print all the information. I didn't create any object, but I was able to get all the data. You got a first name, you got a last name, you got a password. Let me run this. So a Java object need to be binded with the Spring form. The advantage, you don't need to do any request processing. The data is captured automatically. There is something wrong. Register page.jsp, access.jsp. Okay, here I don't need to specify .jsp. Let me run it again. Yeah, see, you got 3 fields. The thing is, now I enter my first name, last name, password, register. What happened? It should go to register.html, right? But that is missing here. Register.html. There is a method. Register.html. Look at the console. Nothing was printed. Okay. Just let me observe what is the problem here. Register page.jsp form action register.htm command name is user. This is perfect. Form tag. Okay. Oh, sorry. What was the URL pattern? It's not HTML. It's .do. The URL pattern was what? .do, right? So here we go. Let me refresh this. I was able to print the data. So the advantage you need to see is, because you binded a object, with the form, the advantage is when you are registering it, you get all the data in the form as an object. Now you don't need to do request.get parameters. You happily got them as what? In the form of user object. So you didn't create any user object, or you didn't do any request.get parameter. Right? So that is the advantage of the Spring framework. Yeah. Any questions on this part? Or is it simple? Binding an empty object with a form, and that will help you in capturing the data without any efforts.
Yeah, Arun?
Yeah.
The URL pattern which you specified as .do, it can be anything user specified or?
It can be anything.
Okay.
Whatever you specify here, it's up to you. You can specify anything there. Since I got it as a .do, so I had to use everywhere .do, but I can just put anything as of my choice there. Oh, when you do register.do call, when you click on the submit button, again register.do, right? So what exactly happens is, again it goes to the web.xml, .do, dispatcher servlet, again it relies on this XML document, again star.do, user controller will be called, and again from the user controller it invokes the register method. because my URL value was registered. Now, yesterday I also showed you how to add Hibernate. So just add the jar files. Then you can, from this register, you can call DAO method. From this register, you can call DAO method to do the registration part. From this DAO, you can call the register method to do the registration part. The only thing you need to do is just add the jar files, and you can finish it off. So these are all the stuff which we discussed last day, but somehow I felt of reiterating them, so I did it. Now I want to do something called, there is something called a response body. There is something called response body. We will discuss that. Here we go. Let me run this application. Here, observe this part. Click to see the list of parameters. So this is my Ajax response. This is my Ajax response. What I am doing here is, when I did redirect.jsp, it is giving me parameter form. Okay, this example is very important, because in this example I am not using 2.5, I am using Spring 3. I am using Spring 3. So you will understand the differences between the 2.5 and 3. 2.5 is more of XML based, 3 is annotation based. So if you see parameter form.do, so where I will go now, can you please help me out with the navigation? So where I will, which file I need to look at? I know when I start this application, redirect.jsp is my home page. So when this page gets called, I am forwarding it to what? Parameter form.do. So where I need to search for this URL? As usual, you need to search in the web.xml, right? Yeah. Now, what you do in the web.xml, I open the web.xml and I realize that there is a servlet configured, dispatcher servlet, and the servlet name is dispatcher. So servlet name is dispatcher means what is the corresponding XML? Dispatcher-servlet.xml. Now when I open this dispatcher-servlet.xml, do you see being tagged with the name attribute? When I open this dispatcher-servlet.xml, do you see name tag with bean attribute? Name bean tag with name attribute. You have a bean tag with ID attribute, that is view resolver. But you don't have any bean tag with name attribute here. You don't have any bean tag with name attribute here. You don't have any bean tag with name attribute here. Thing is, we specified in the line number 11 MVC colon annotation driven. MVC colon annotation driven. I'll tell you the advantage of this. I'll tell you the advantage of this annotation. Okay, now remember, if you go back to your last example, let's go back to the last example. So according to the last example, how many controllers were there? There was only one controller. there was only one controller. Now because there was one controller, there was a bean tag representing that controller. Now imagine if your project is very big. If your project is a very big project, maybe some 5 to 6 years of project, or with 1,000 case studies, 1,000 modules, then you'll have so many controllers, then you'll have so many bean tags. If you have 10 controllers, there will be 10 bean tags. If you have 100 controllers, there will be 100 bean tags. If you have 200 controllers, there will be 200 bean tags. So this is something difficult to maintain. This is something difficult to maintain. So we moved on to this. MVC : annotation driven. But you need to specify the package name. That is what I did. Context : component -scan. Context : component -scan. I just gave the complete package name. I just gave the complete package name. Context : component -scan. I just gave the complete package name. Now if I open that package, I see only one class, but if I open that class, you see in top of it. On top of the class I specified an annotation, @controller. Done. So that indicates that this is a controller. Similarly, on top, you have a methods. On top of the method, I'm putting a @request mapping. On top of the method, I'm putting @request mapping. Parameter form. Now, what is the URL I'm searching for? Redirect.jsp. Parameter form. It goes to the web.xml. From the web.xml, it invokes the dispatcher servlet. Dispatcher servlet depends on the dispatcher-servlet.xml. But here I don't see any bean tag with name attribute, but I see something called context : component scan. So I need to scan the package. What is the package I need to scan? Controller package. When I started scanning controller package, I found a class with @controller. Then what I'm doing? Now I'm getting inside the class and I'm starting looking for what? @request mappings. Then I found the value match. Then this method gets called. And what is this method doing? It is returning a view and a object. It is returning a view and a object. It is returning a view and a object. Now why don't we look at it? It is returning a view and the object. Then I open this page. Oh, here I see. Then I have a form tag. I have a form tag, command name. You got an input. Right? You have a submit button. You have an input, you have a submit button to add the parameter. But what I am doing is, that was okay. Here we look at this. There is also one more button to click to see the list of parameters. So if you start observing this form, in this form there is an input, there is a form tag which is accepting the input. There is a button, click to see list of parameters. Then what I did is, if you observe, when the form got displayed, look, I'm binding an event here. I'm binding an event here in this form.jsp. When somebody clicks on this button, you are making an AJAX call. What is the URL? Get parameters.do. Again go to the web.xml. Again from web.xml go to the dispatcher servlet. But in the dispatcher servlet there is nothing configured. There is no bean tag configured. Bean with name attribute is not configured. So what I do, I just scan it. There is something called component scan. When I started scanning the component main controller, then I realized that there is a request mapping called @parameters. And here we have. And what are you doing here? You need to observe this one very carefully. @request mapping, value, and the kind of method is request type is get. Look at this. It's not model and view as return type. You can return anything of your choice. Model and view is not your return type. Model and view is not your return type. You can return anything of your choice. One can return anything of their choice. One can return anything of their choice. How one can return anything of their choice? By just specifying this @response body. By specifying @response body, one can return anything of their choice. That's what I did. I'm returning about array list of type parameters. Then I have some key. I hard coded this. I am not fetching from the database. Then I'm just returning the parameter list. Now this parameter list is not a Java object now. It will be assumed as a JSON response. Look at this. Get parameters. You see this stuff? JSON response. Data of 0.parameter ID, parameter name, parameter ID, array to name. Because I know that there are only two. So the only significant thing in this, there are few significant things here. One is you are not using XML for controller mapping. Rather you are using annotations. So what are the annotations you've got familiar with? @controller, that is on top of the class. Now observe, you just did @controller. You didn't even do this extends multi-action controller. You are not doing extends multi-action controller. You just need to add this annotation that will take care of everything. The next thing is, on top of every method you are writing @request mapping. And as long as your return type is model and view, no problem. But in case if you want to return anything of your choice, then you need to use @response body. So by specifying @response body, you can return whatever you wish to do. Arun is available for use. So this is another one. Kiran is available for use. Right. So how this is happening? Again I did the same stuff here. On blur, I added an event. Check for the availability of the parameter. If it is available, just say yes or no. Availability of the parameter. See, parameter equals technical already exists. Let me write technical. Already exists. If you write anything else, it's available for you. Yeah. Any questions on this part? Or is it simple? I'm just making use of this @controller concept. Annotations. Instead of documenting everything in the XML, we're just putting it in the Java program itself. No. This is all related to not related to web.xml, right? So it should be in the dispatcher-servlet. Yeah, you can add as many controllers as you want in a single package. No. It's I just did a message actually. So normally when we try to do Gmail registration or Yahoo registration, it will actually check for the existence of the username, right? That's what. Actually, I didn't do that. Actually, we should stop. We should stop from being used, right? If I say already in use, we should not allow it to use it again. So, but that logic I didn't.
I'm asking.
I'm sorry.
That's what I'm asking. When it comes like already exists, or when we click on sorry.
Okay, fine. Then how to specify an annotation? Same. You can create as many controllers as you want. Suppose you have a main controller, create one more controller. Class user controller. Just add a controller. Done. Then you define method. Whatever you want to return type. And on top of this, just write down the annotation. Request mapping to this value, whatever the path. So whenever you make a request with this address, it scans the controllers. If you have 10 controllers, it scans all the 10 controllers. So the moment the controller is matched, then when the path is matched, then the respective method gets executed. And you're returning a string. That's it. Did I answer your question? Is it clear now? Did I answer your
Hi,
question?
Arun.
Yeah, hi.
Yeah. Can you go again to the where you specify the controller? You didn't give the name, bean tag name, right? There you just give the annotation as a and something
Yes.
called.
See, normally in the last example, when I was using Spring 2.5, if I'm using Spring
Yeah.
2.5,
Here then yeah.
I do this.
Here my question comes. Then how you specify the user controller now? First there was the main controller. Now you created another one called user controller, right? Then how you specify here?
You don't need to specify, right? See, on top of this, you just add a direct controller. That indicates it's a controller. On top
Okay,
of
so then you are telling that web.xml will scan. No, the dispatcher servlet will scan for all the controller, right?
yes.
Then what's the advantage of this? See, if it's not, no, just I'm asking what's the advantage? See, if we didn't specify any controller name, it is going to check again what's the controller is going to see. If you said we are having 100 controllers, it's going to scan 100 controllers. So what's the advantage of this one?
we're not going to document 100 controllers, right? So the thing is, it's all about the maintenance. If you document everything in XML, it is very difficult to maintain the XML because there are so many people developing. Understand? If there are so many people developing it, and if you document in the XML file, and it is very difficult to maintain it. Okay. So that is the problem. They started using annotations. Annotations are what? Very easy to use. Alright?
Okay.
And the other thing is, why somebody will develop 100 controllers? Because in a single controller itself, you can write multiple methods, right?
Okay.
So it's not that you will be developing 100 controllers. I just gave you an example. The more controllers, the more you need to put it in the XML. Okay.
Okay.
But here,
Yeah. Okay.
the controller, suppose if you are developing a system with 3 modules, then there will be 3 controllers.
Okay.
And inside that controller, you will see all the methods.
Okay. Okay.
And
Yeah, so we are not specifying any, we are not specifying even the method name also. So that was I'm asking. So if it's not specifying any controller name or method name, so it's going to search in each and every controller and every method name. What's the advantage of this one, the annotation? That's what I'm.
Yes. In the previous case also we did the same. No, there also when you did that, when you are mapping controller. When you are mapping controller, you didn't do this. You didn't specify the method name. You just did name. Name. This is how you did it. /user /start.do. Because a single class is responsible for multiple actions.
Okay.
Right? So here also you need to scan each and every method, right?
Yeah.
But here the advantage is, if you use
here we are specifying the controller name. Yeah, here we are specifying the particular controller name, right?
Yes, one particular controller name is specified. And the other advantage in the annotations is, now earlier your method name and path must be same, no? See, earlier method name and path must be same. Method name is parameter form, then path also should be parameter form, now?
Yes.
Now you can keep the path name different.
Okay.
That's it.
Okay.
So I hope
we can we can have the different path name, then how it will match as the request mapping, then how it will match the value.
On top of every method you have request mapping, right?
Okay.
So when the request path matches, then the corresponding method gets executed.
Okay.
So now here it is not mandatory that the path name and the method name must be same. Whereas if you do XML, the path name and method name need to be same. But here you don't need to have the path name and method name need to be same. You can have it different. Corresponding method gets executed. On top of every method you are putting iterate request mapping, if you see.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Arun. Thank you.
So I hope you guys are very clear about the Spring MVC flow now, and even you have an idea about the significance of the response body. So normally if you use normal Spring flow, if you don't use response body, you can only return model and view, right? And but when you start using response body, your return type can be anything. The return type is your choice.
Okay.
So, actually I need to move out, so I would like to stop here, and there are 2 more things I would like to discuss tomorrow with respect to Spring. One is Spring security, other one is interceptor, and there is something called auto wiring. So I'll tell you what is this auto wiring. So these things I would like to discuss tomorrow, and we'll also get started with web services. This is the agenda for tomorrow. So if any questions, I'll take it up, otherwise we'll stop here, we'll catch you in the next session. And I didn't email the last day note, I will be doing it right away.
Even we didn't get the recording for a couple of days also, Arun.
Okay. I think I uploaded for the previous things. Only for the last day I didn't do it. I think I'll check with Shiva and I'll ask him to share it with you.
Okay. Thank you.